You're listening to the Quint's podcast.
While we're dealing with the COVID-19 pandemic, some Indian states are also reporting an outbreak of the bird flu now, with nearly 25,000 birds being reported dead in a fortnight. In Himachal Pradesh, close to 3,000 migratory birds, most of them being the endangered bar-headed goose, were found dead. Over 600 crows have died in Rajasthan and Madhya Pradesh. In Kerala, at least 20,000 ducks have died, and Haryana reported around 4 lakh poultry deaths in 10 days, but the state is yet to confirm the outbreak. But how serious is the recent outbreak looking like? How does the infection spread? Are humans at risk, and what measures should we take to stay safe? For all our queries on the bird flu, we spoke to Dr. Mala V. Kaneria, who's a consultant of infectious diseases at Jaslok Hospital and Research Center in Mumbai. You're tuned in to The Big Story, the podcast where we dissect the headline-making news for you. And I'm your host, Shorbori. The avian influenza, or bird flu as it's popularly known, was first detected in the mid-90s. According to the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, or CDC, in the year 1996, it was detected in geese in China. And since then, there have been periodic outbreaks across the world, including in India. The first outbreak here was in 2006 that led to the culling of a large number of poultry, since bird flu generally is believed to be spreading through infected poultry or through migratory birds. And in this current outbreak, Kerala alone is planning to cull 40,000 hens and ducks. So what kind of a flu is this exactly? Well, it's a contagious viral disease caused by an infection from the type A influenza that is said to occur naturally among wild aquatic birds worldwide. It can infect domestic poultry as well, and other birds, and even some mammals in some instances. And an infection can cause severe respiratory diseases in birds. Now, there are many types of bird flu, but the H5N1 and the H7N5 are the most common strains. But in the current outbreak, the H5N8 strain has been detected. But does bird flu infect humans? Are we at risk as well? That's perhaps the most common concern, especially since we're already dealing with a pandemic right now. But bird flu viruses usually do not infect humans. We also called up Dr. Mala Kaneria to understand what are the chances of this infection spreading in humans, and this is what she said.
So viruses are known to mutate, because especially avian influenza viruses, because they have got a segmented genome. And what happens is that the pig or the swine is supposed to be a melting pot. We're supposing a pig is affected by avian influenza, and a pig is also affected by human influenza. And in that, the viruses, they undergo a kind of transformation. And when they undergo this transformation, they develop into a new kind of virus which can affect humans. So pig can be an intermediary. So mutation is very common, and influenza viruses are known to mutate, and they develop something called, they have a process called as antigenic shift or drift. Antigenic shift is a very radical or a drastic mutation, and antigenic drift is a smaller mutation. So in antigenic shift, by constant mutation of bigger genomic particles, develop into a virus which has got a capability of getting transmitted to a human being or getting attached to a human cell very easily. And then it can human to human. Otherwise, a human being can only get infected if he's coming in contact with an infected bird during, say, cleaning a bird, or plucking the feather of an infected bird, or coming into droppings or some secretions of an infected bird.
And it can get fatal as well?
Absolutely. It can get fatal, because ARDS is supposed to be something which is very fatal, where the lungs are filled with fluid. The person is not able to breathe on his own, and he requires admission in the intensive care unit and ventilatory support. And in the management, other multiple organs can also get involved, and it can be fatal. Therefore, it is called as highly pathogenic avian influenza.
To add a little more information to what Dr. Kaneria said, according to CDC, the H5N1 strain was the first strain that was found to infect humans in the year 1997 during a poultry outbreak in Hong Kong. And as you heard Dr. Kaneria say, it can also get fatal amongst humans. In the Hong Kong outbreak, the infection was confirmed in 18 people, 6 of whom died. And those infections were reportedly acquired by humans directly from chickens without the involvement of an immediate host. But the CDC also points out a few other factors, and I'm quoting a few lines here. Quote, most human infections with avian influenza viruses, including HPAI Asian H5N1 viruses, have occurred after prolonged and close contact with infected birds. Rare human-to-human spread with this virus has occurred, but it has not been sustained, and no community spread of this virus has ever been identified. End quote. But having said that, why it's still a public health concern is due to the fact that influenza viruses are constantly mutating, and it's entirely possible for some strains to develop and spread infections amongst humans as well. So in those rare cases when humans do get infected, what are the symptoms like? Back to Dr. Kaneria here.
Then all flus basically cause a respiratory illness. So the person can have a mild flu-like symptom like fever or sore throat or myalgia or a diarrhea, or it can progress to form a very severe kind of pneumonia or an acute respiratory distress syndrome and multiple organ dysfunction. So usually these are very pathogenic, and a person who has mild infection would progress to a severe form, such as I explained, a pneumonia or an ARDS.
Now, we don't know if the widely reported avian deaths are a matter of concern to humans or not, but Bird Count India, which is a partnership comprising organizations and groups, warned that if anybody encounters a wild bird that is dying or dead, it should not be approached under any circumstances. It should not be touched, given the possibility, however small, that it might be infected with the avian influenza. However, a frequently asked question about the bird flu is, can eating chickens cause bird flu infections amongst humans?
So a human being can get infection only if he comes into contact with these infected secretions or the droppings. And because these carry these viruses, many times they may be asymptomatic and they fly very high. And birds can shed their droppings even while flying. So when they shed their droppings, there is an aerosol which is formed, which if the human they can get the infection. But eating infected poultry or eggs which come from a bird which is infected, if it is thoroughly cooked, then it cannot cause an infection, especially if the meat is cooked to an internal temperature of 165 degrees Fahrenheit. If it is cooked very well, then the ingestion of such a well-cooked meat cannot cause infection. However, if somebody eats undercooked meat from a chicken or from a bird which is infected, then there may be a possibility, but not with chicken which is well cooked.
Dr. Kaneria also talks about the available treatments.
So the antiviral treatment for bird flu would be the same as we have used for swine flu, that is H1N1 influenza, that is oseltamivir and zanamivir. These are the only antivirals which are available, which to be effective have to be started very early, within 48 hours of symptoms. So once the patient reaches a stage of severe pneumonia or ARDS, then these two, even though they have to be started, they may not be very effective once all the organs in the body are affected. So therefore, these have to be started within 48 hours of the symptom development in humans.
But how did this infection spread in India? Well, there's no certainty on that. But according to a report on Hindustan Times, Forest Department officials said that the source of the outbreak was migratory birds and is likely to have spread infection in the native species as well. But there have been no reports of any infection in humans yet in the country. However, officials have already swung into action to take precautionary measures. In Rajasthan, for instance, Section 144 has been imposed within a kilometre of the infected area in Jhalawar and Pali districts. Hindustan Times also reported that the Rajasthan government is also planning to seal the Madhya Pradesh border for poultry transportation. The health department in Bengaluru is screening poultry in Shivaji Nagar and KR Market, according to the News Minute, while control rooms and quick responses teams have been set up in Kottayam, according to NDTV. Tamil Nadu is also on alert since Kerala reported a lot of avian deaths. So, until this outbreak is under control, what are the precautionary measures that we can take for ourselves? This is what Dr. Kaneria advises.
Other thing is, like, people who are coming in close contact with birds have to be very cautious. And like I already mentioned, because it is there in the droppings of the bird and the secretions, if someone is in contact with these birds because of their profession, then they should be wearing appropriate personal protective equipment, wearing hand gloves, using a mask so that they don't inhale the aerosols. And generally, they should avoid places where there are too many birds and where there is an aerosol because of their droppings. These are the few precautions which a human being should take.
If you like listening to this episode, please subscribe to the Big Story playlist for episodic updates. We're live on Apple, Google Podcast, Spotify, JioSaavn, and most of the other popular podcast streaming platforms. For other podcasts, please log on to the Quint website and check out the podcast section. For any feedback, shoot an email to podcasts@thequint.com.
Thanks for listening. Log on to the Quint's website and check out our other podcasts.